After Democrats won back the House of Representatives on Tuesday night, Nancy Pelosi made her victory speech, and rather than outlining a clear progressive agenda going into the 2019 and 2020 congressional session, she already kind of threw up the white flag, and she made the case for bipartisanship.
Today is more than about Democrats and Republicans. It's about restoring the Constitution's checks and balances to the Trump administration. It's about stopping the GOP and Mitch McConnell's assaults on Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, and the health care of 130 million Americans living with pre-existing medical conditions. Let's hear it more for pre-existing medical conditions. In stark contrast to the GOP Congress, the Democratic Congress will be led with transparency and openness so that the public can see what's happening and how it affects them, and that they can weigh in with the members of Congress and with the President of the United States. We will have accountability, and we will strive for bipartisanship with fairness on all sides. We will have a responsibility to find our common ground where we can, stand our ground where we can't, but we must try. We have a bipartisan marketplace of ideas that makes our democracy strong. A Democratic Congress will work for solutions that bring us together.
So, look, I'll try to be charitable here and say that that entire clip wasn't awful. I'm a little bit relieved to hear her say we're going to try to stop the Republican Party's attack on, earned benefit programs, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. That makes me feel a little bit better, I guess, if she actually holds strong, because look, dreamers can tell you that the last time Democrats claimed they would hold strong, they didn't. They caved really soon. So, I'm glad that she at least acknowledges the importance of that. But here's where this all took a turn for the worse, where she fell off a cliff in her speech. She said, quote, "We will strive for bipartisanship." Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but she kind of did a little pause there after she said that, and I think she was expecting the crowd to cheer, but there was about one person that seemed to be clapping there.
And we will strive for bipartisanship with fairness on all sides.
Yeah, and after she said that and continued to try to sell us on the importance of bipartisanship, nobody was really enjoying that. In fact, only one person in that crowd seemed excited about the prospect of bipartisanship.
We have a bipartisan marketplace of ideas.
So, what's the problem with bipartisanship and finding common ground? Because do I think those are inherently dirty words? No, I don't, to be honest. But when Democrats use the word work together and find common ground and bipartisanship, really, that's code for we're going to roll over and die and allow the Republicans to steamroll us and do whatever they want. That's essentially what we've come to expect when we hear Democrats talk about bipartisanship, and this terrifies me. It doesn't bode well for the next 2 years. And here's what Nancy Pelosi and pro-bipartisan Democrats fail to grasp. At a time when the Republican Party has shifted so far to the right, when they're openly electing and re-electing racists and white supremacists like Ron DeSantis in Florida and Steve King in Iowa, respectively, when the president himself is an actual fascist, there's no finding common ground with these sorts of fucking people. Why is that so hard to grasp? Because if you meet maniacs halfway, you're tacitly legitimizing their lunacy. You're saying, I want to work with these crazy people and I'll meet them halfway. But the problem is that what are you even going to work with Republicans on? They're not putting forward an agenda that helps the American people in any way, shape, or form. All that they've proposed is to harm Americans. They want to cut Medicare. They want to cut Social Security and Medicaid. How are you going to find common ground when this party doesn't care to look out for the American people. They only want to make the banks bigger, the rich richer, the poor poorer, and they want more deregulation. They want to make the wars more robust. How are you going to find common ground with people who are right-wing extremists when a portion of the party is now fascist? How can you possibly convince them to work with you on anything that benefits the American people? The only way you're going to accomplish bipartisan legislation with this party is if you agree to hurt the American people. And now that you have the House, you have to do everything in your power to obstruct them and stop the hemorrhaging that's been happening when it comes to our civil rights and civil liberties. Nobody wants you to get to Congress and sing Kumbaya. That's not why Americans gave Democrats the House back. We want you to stop the hemorrhaging. We've been hurting. And to say on night one after you win that I'm already willing to throw up the white flag, I mean, it's so demoralizing, Nancy. If I were Nancy Pelosi, I would immediately put forward a strong progressive agenda. I would promote Medicare for all, a nationwide recreational marijuana bill, net neutrality, ending the wars and bringing the troops home, more regulations on Wall Street, getting money out of politics, campaign finance law. And I'm not under the delusion that Nancy Pelosi and Democrats would be able to get these passed, but what you can do is send a message to the American people that this is what you can expect if you elect Democrats, and certainly if you promote these policy ideas, you're helping to build a coalition for these ideas in Congress ahead of Democrats potentially retaking back all of government in 2020. But instead, Nancy Pelosi, she's choosing to send the opposite message that she should be sending right now. And the problem is that Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to promote these types of progressive policies because she's what some of us like to call...
They call me a corporate pawn.
So at a moment in history where every single day is a fight for our lives, we need a leader who's going to be bold, who's going to stand up to Donald Trump and not fold every single time he or she faces criticism from the right for being obstructionist. We need someone who's going to be a fighter. That person is not Nancy Pelosi. That person is Barbara Lee. She's someone with a strong anti-war voting record. She supports Medicare for all, and she has decades of congressional experience. She's the very person for this time in American politics that can actually give us a ray of hope. And it does seem as if Nancy Pelosi may not have the full support needed to become House Speaker, although it's very likely that she will still win anyway. But I mean, there's rumblings like there were in 2016 that there weren't going to be enough votes for her to win. And it's the same people like Tim Ryan who are coming out and speaking out against her. No, we don't need Tim Ryan, we don't need Nancy Pelosi, and we certainly don't need Steny Hoyer. We need Barbara Lee, and I took the liberty to create a petition for us to sign that indicates our support for Barbara Lee. Now look, before you comment and tell me that this petition isn't going to make a lick of difference, I hear ya, right? Because we're not going to be voting. Okay, and odds are the people who will or won't be voting for Nancy Pelosi already made up their mind, but the least that we can do is just put this petition out there and make our voices heard and let Barbara Lee know that if she chooses to run, the entire progressive movement is going to be behind her. And look, I don't know if she even wants to be speaker. She's signaled that she's interested in a leadership position. I don't know if she's interested specifically in running for speaker, but I see already broad support for Barbara Lee. And this is only in progressive circles, so that's a bubble, right? But here's the thing. If she can actually run as House Speaker and win, I think a lot of the country would actually feel rejuvenated and energized heading into 2020 because she's someone who actually is looking out for the people, whereas Nancy Pelosi, she's already bragging about why she should be speaker because she raises a lot of money. Look, the message you're sending to the country, and specifically the left, is we're still not really willing to represent the working class because we're still going to take money from corporate donors. Now, at this point, I don't want to call Nancy Pelosi being House Speaker a foregone conclusion, but it's very likely that she does become House Speaker again. I really, really hope that I'm wrong. But look, in the meantime, just sign the petition, or at least tweet to Barbara Lee and Democratic Party leaders, letting them know that we need to go in a new direction, because Dem leadership, they haven't been doing enough, and we need some new blood. And that person, I think, who's perfect for this job at this point in time is Barbara Lee.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.